Good afternoon, Gearheads. Welcome to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM. We are bringing you the results from the qualifying in Sao Paulo at Interlagos. And this Jon Massengale, Jonathan Green with me. Bob Varsha's not going to be with us today. He'll be with us tomorrow for the Sunday action. Chris Medland will be joining us later in the show. Jonathan Green, we've had a fantastic Saturday with the sprint race with excitement and the qualifying. It was fantastic, and Lando Norris on the pole.
Yeah, it feels like the longest day, I guess, because there's a sprint race and you take that all in, and there was so much going on in that. And then weather, is it coming? Is it not? The wind, it dried out. Slight delay while they fixed the track after the undercard smashed the track up. And then massive surprises in qualifying. I mean, no Hamilton, no Verstappen, no Tsunoda. I don't think I've ever seen Red Bull qualify at the back of the grid on merit.
On merit. That is maybe the biggest story today. But you know what? I want to back up to the sprint race because there were some very interesting things going on in that sprint. And Lando Norris wins the sprint race. But I want to ask you something. I actually tweeted this out. I was like, was that a strategic Machiavellian move by Lando Norris to use the puddles in the curb to ruin the track for Piastri behind him? Because what I thought of is that I've actually done this myself. When someone's tailgating me in the rain and you go over a puddle, it'll flash up and then they'll slow down and turn on their wipers. I thought about that when watching Lando go over those curbs. It was, or do you think I'm just overthinking that?
Yeah, the difference is you're on William Cannon going 40 and he's at 160. And as you saw from Piastri's car, I mean, the note of the engine just slightly went up, and that's all it took. So yeah, I'd love to say it was a Machiavellian move, but it wasn't.
It's such a waste of time. It's very childish. Really annoying.
Yeah, it is really annoying. No, I'm just kidding. But no, he took too much of the curb, and in a dry situation, it would have been fine. But he could have been caught out of that just as easily. And I'm sure if he saw it on the big screen, he'd have been like, "Ooh, don't do that again."
Well, what we're talking about is Piastri hit the same curb and what looked like to me just about the same spot as Lando, which is why I was thinking that I really think the water made the difference.
Oh yeah, it was the water that got him, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought I wanted to start with that because it was just such a fascinating session with these little puddles and those old-fashioned curbs with those little divots in there that hold those puddles of water.
We don't have that in Austin.
Yeah, I just love this about Interlagos being, old school and having these little nuance like that. It's really fascinating.
I tell you, it just shows you how, how on a knife edge the whole series is when that's the difference. It's literally, a tiny curb, which, we're talking about an inch different than the previous lap, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, just amazing difference. But look, this has now set Max up to have a struggle to try to hit the championship. It's set Lando up to, he gained 8 points up to 9 point spread in the championship to Piastri. And then he's on pole. Now, Piastri's starting P4 after qualifying, but still, this really puts Lando in a good position. But let me just ask you, I saw a couple of people on social media saying this could be it for Max, his championship hopes here, starting, my goodness, 16th as we stand. I haven't seen any penalties or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I watched last year's race, and obviously he did a miraculous job from 17th last year, but that was assisted by the weather. So unless he gets a weather assistance, which by all accounts of the forecast isn't going to happen, 16th up to, I mean, he's going to have to do some jiggery-pokery shenanigans to get up there, and even a strategy that perhaps nobody else will choose. I'll tell you what, he won't be going on the soft tire. He cannot make that work.
You know what? I'll argue with something you just said. You said assistance from the weather. I think that the weather showed last year, because I watched it too. I rewatched last year too.
Yeah,
I don't think it was assistance. I think it was Max's brilliance in the weather. I
right.
know what you meant, but the choice of word assistance,
Well, I just think that, yeah, he'll be brilliant tomorrow, but in dry conditions, you can only be so brilliant. And what I'm
yeah,
getting at is that,
exactly. Yeah.
the grip, they don't have a good car for this weekend. And that wasn't the case last year, and especially in the wet. He was able to do what Max does best, which is be a genius. But yeah, I do think it's going to be tougher because we've seen no signs this weekend that the Red Bull is competitive in any form of weather.
Well, we've got a post qualifying clip from Max Verstappen if we're ready for that one, Casey. And I want to play it just because I wish we could see the video of it because Max's face was kind of surprisingly dejected. Not completely, but let's hear from Max.
Want to see. The whole weekend has been already quite tough, but this is a bit unexpected, I would say, after changing quite a bit on the car. But yeah, I mean, it was just not responding. I had no grip out there, so I had to really massively underdrive it, basically, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, just didn't work. He was basically saying that all weekend. Jonathan, he was talking about for the first part of the weekend, and even in the sprint race, he was talking about the ride and the ride height. And then they made some adjustments, and then he complained of lack of grip. I mean, it was stunning to see the Red Bulls so out of position, just crazy.
Yeah, I read a piece by Mark Hughes in the race talking about this sort of jigsaw puzzle that Red Bull have been trying to put together. And it seems that because of the nature of the ride height at the rear, particularly, you have to go a little bit higher than you do at some other circuits. So therefore, certainly on the soft tires, they're struggling to find any sort of grip. And you could see it on his qualifying lap. He was underdriving the car. And okay, so add a bit of wing and force it down a bit, but that also has an effect. And whatever they've tried, and they're going to have to try something overnight again from 16th. It hasn't worked yet, but hope springs eternal. Red Bull have the skills, and so does Verstappen, to turn this around. You never know. Good start, few places at the start, up to 10th. He could be still in the points come towards the end of the Brazil Grand Prix.
This is one of my favorite things about Formula One is that it sounds a bit cruel to the team that's experiencing it, but when they get lost, it's so fascinating to me. And when I say lost, I mean the setup loss. We've seen time and again where a team gets their setup wrong and they try this and they try that. And I mean, you think teams have gone all the way back to let's start over, right? Let's start with the chassis from the beginning of the year. I mean, it gets so fascinating because it is such an upgrade race all season long. And when they get lost, they just, even the mighty Red Bull right now, they're lost as of today.
Yep. And, it's going to be interesting. I mean, like you say, I love a race where I'm watching the guy from in 16th, Carlos Sainz, is down there. Hamilton down in 13th. And Alonso has done better than that, as we saw in the sprint race. So there's a lot of guys that could come forward. Behrman, in the end, perhaps should be further up the board.
Yeah, and look, going into this last session of, I mean, this last little run of all the fast laps, right? We had Oliver Behrman, who was sitting at P2, but we didn't know who was going to take this. I mean, when you go down and there's 3 minutes left in qualifying, and we really didn't know who was going to be on pole, that's just makes for a fantastic qualifying session.
But what a great story. Antonelli out qualifying Russell twice now.
Yeah.
In the one weekend.
Yeah, he looked so strong. And Russell was complaining the entire qualifying that he could not get the grip. And a couple other complaints. It seemed he was complaining about, besides grip, maybe brakes, but yeah, he was complaining. And we were, right before we came on air, we were listening to the post-qualifying interviews live, and Antonelli was almost giddy. He's just, I just forget how young he is. He just sounded so young. He's 19 years old.
I mean, it's great. I mean, the story for me this weekend is the youngsters. I mean, look at the Red Bulls. What a bounce back. 5th for Hadjar, and 7th for Lawson, who was in trouble in the, in the sprint race. But remember, they are now, after Alonso's 3 points in the sprint race, they're on equal points with Aston Martin. So that I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Racing Bulls and the Aston Martins in this race.
Well, let's talk about the winners and losers. We kind of touched on it, but obviously Lando Norris and Antonelli, I would say, are the two big winners.
Yeah.
And the big losers, of course, are the Red Bulls. But Piastri, it's sitting at P4 behind Leclerc.
Good bounce back, actually.
Yeah, it was. It was a good recovery because, wow, did you see the post sprint, after he crashed out and getting no points and Lando building his lead by 8 points just in that sprint.
Yeah.
But he was so dejected, like seriously, his facial expressions and words were just, he was devastated. You could tell.
Well, because, I think Jolyon was asked on F1 TV whether, seeing 2 other cars go off, would have given him some solace. And the answer is no. They're not the ones fighting for a title. I am, and so no, I wouldn't. He said I wouldn't have gained any solace from that. And I think Piastri, and I heard his post-sprint interview, takes full blame and full responsibility. It was his fault, driver error. And yeah, I can understand his dejection. It's one thing to say like Verstappen can't get any grip. Well, that Verstappen's not driving any less hard. So the problem is generally, whereas Piastri made a mistake. He shouldn't have been that wide.
Yeah. Again, I said it earlier that the line that he took was not, to me, it looked identical to Lando Norris before, but also Piastri should know that these changing in weather conditions and this can happen. I just wonder if the team talked about exactly what happened. Like, hey, if you see somebody going over the curbs, watch for the water, or because the spray, because you could see it in the onboard shots, you could see that spray up ahead.
I'll tell you what, it's not often I've said this about Piastri, but remember, he is only 3 years into his Grand Prix career. His rise has been monumental. But I thought Jack Villeneuve made a really, really interesting comment on F1 TV. He said, you know better after the rain to go on to the curbs here. He said, even when it's humid here, you don't touch the curbs. And that was really a thinking man's, world champion's,
perspective,
study of that corner, that moment, what had happened before, what was happening at the time. And even Jack, who hasn't driven a Formula One car in 20 years, has that mindset to say, look, even humidity can make it slippy out there. And Brazil is always humid. But when you add rain to it and sitting water to it, then you're your own worst enemy if you can take to the curbs.
Yeah. I guess you could say that Lando was lucky because he
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and as they described it, it literally was, application wise, they weren't that different. The lines weren't the same. It's just how they were applying the throttle. And it was just a tiny, millimeter difference in applying that throttle, which made the difference of him going round. And the other two, by the way, went round for different reasons, I think. Yes, it was slippy, and yes, there was water there, but I think Hulkenberg and Colapinto's car looked like a dog before it even got to turn, as he dived into turn 1, so forget turn 2. But yeah, he was an accident waiting to happen, and Hulkenberg did slip on the water.
Yeah. Well, it was it was really exciting, both of these sessions, the sprint race and the qualifying, and just throwing up so much new, and we didn't know what to look for, and that just really makes for an exciting weekend. But I
tell you what, we're blessed to have a last 4 races where development has effectively stopped, and yet we're getting competitiveness from the likes of Gasly in an Alpine and Behrman in a Haas. Love it.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, well, let's get a break in real quick, and when we come back, we'll continue to break down the Brazil qualifying, and Chris Medland's going to join us sometime in the next few minutes. You're listening to Speed City F1, back after these messages. All right, let's check in on the YouTubers.
What they saying?
I haven't even gone over there yet. Let's see. On the Brazil qualifying, and Chris Medland's going to join us sometime in the next few minutes.
Wild moments when the water was splashed on the track.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. On the YouTubers. Is that you, Greenie? Your mic? I mean, your speakers?
See what?
I think you have to mute the YouTube site.
Gotcha.
Andy P. Lando doesn't make it easy, but he brought the goods when you needed it today. Yep. He's looked so strong all weekend and really for the last few races. Mike Bowles is here. I like it. Trajectories are getting wild. Hey, Mike, how are you? Let's see.
Enjoying Behrman.
Yeah. Kevin Kelly, wild ass session. Yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody's responding. Andy P is going, replying to your Machiavellian note. Lando's good, but not that.
You guys, come on. I'm telling you, I've done it. I've done it, but it, like you said, Greenie, maybe at Mopac at 60 miles an hour, but
well, what I'm getting at is it is almost too clever to plan that.
I know. A guy can dream, right?
But you know, having said that, after watching today unfold, if something similar happened and it rained in the morning, I would be going, okay.
Yeah. Bill Ricker's here. Wild weekend so far, he says. He says, thank you, Car and Carrot. Wait, what's he talking about?
Orange.
All right, here we go.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. We are breaking down the Sao Paulo Grand Prix qualifying. Let me just run down the finishing order in case you missed it or just tuned in. Lando Norris is on pole for tomorrow, followed by Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes, then Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Isaac Hadjar, George Russell, Liam Lawson, Oliver Behrman up in P8, Gasly in 9th, Hulkenberg in 10th, Alonso, Albon, Hamilton all the way down in 13th, Lance Stroll, Sainz, Verstappen in 16th. Yes, your radio is correct. I did say Max Verstappen down in 16th. Ocon, Colapinto, and Max's teammate Yuki Tsunoda down in 19th, and Bortoleto, who didn't get to do qualifying after a massive crash. And you know what? Let's start there, Jonathan. That was a huge crash. And watching the car crash, hit the wall, and then go airborne after it hit the little seam there.
Yeah,
that was scary. I think I heard 57 Gs.
57 Gs, and it was because as it went airborne, it accelerates. It always does. When you take the weight off the car, there's nothing but thin air to deal with. And ironically, they are at altitude there too. So yeah, it would have, as it took off, it would have accelerated from probably maybe potential of 40 G impact to what it was 57. But it was the oddest of crashes. I mean, you know, I watched purposely on the onboard to see if I could see the moment it went and why. But even now, I've looked at it 3 or 4 times, and I mean, you know, I think one of the commentators said there might have been a bit of water there, maybe. But my word, did it just go like that?
Yeah, and it was really unusual, and it just snapped. Like you said, it was just such a quick turn. And let's not forget that you're right. You mentioned the altitude. It's about 25 or 600 feet, which makes it second only to Mexico, we just saw. So
would you believe that Vegas is 4th?
Really? Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing is, I wonder how competitive Bortoleto might be tomorrow, because he's shown good signs. He's been up there. It's his home race. He's getting his, his learning done. He's never done the track except for in a Tim Top. I think it could be, in the end, I know he starts at the back, but I'm going to be watching him too.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And they almost got the car out. It looked like
they had, almost. They got him in it. They just couldn't get him out.
Yep. So, let's talk about Isaac Hadjar, Jonathan? Again, impressive. P5 in
Very.
qualifying. I mean,
Like I said, the Racing Bulls, I'm watching their battle with Aston Martin. Aston Martin looked very impressive, especially they're qualifying for the sprint race. And Alonso's looked on good form and continues as he did in qualifying. And I'm only comparing those two. But yes, to answer your question, Isaac Hadjar looked great. But so did Liam Lawson. And I think when you see Tsunoda at the back, and that's the conversation between those three, no question that Lindblad on his Friday run in Mexico impressed mightily. So yeah, I hats off to both Hadjar and Lawson for very impressive qualifying, because if you think about it, Lawson was in trouble in the sprint race for coming together with Behrman. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. In fact, Behrman's got the blame for that, which is interesting. I don't know whether I agree or disagree, but I didn't think any penalty would be given, but Behrman's got it. But very impressive, the Racing Bulls, as they have been all season, to be honest. But now it's even more important when they're fighting for overall in the constructors, but more importantly, both drivers fighting to prove that they're worthy of staying in the Fab Four.
yeah, and that's going to be that is the team to watch, the Red Bull and the Racing Bulls for drivers. And by the way, both Behrman and Lawson ended up with 5-second penalties for that.
Oh, Lawson did as well, did he?
Yeah, they both ended up with 5-second penalties. But yeah, what I was leading up to is you got, the car. What's funny is clearly today, for sure, the Racing Bulls car is the fastest of the Red Bull family. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Which has happened before, but very rare. And it just shows you, well, it kind of proves our point, which is it isn't an easy car to drive, and it's Max that's wringing the neck of it, and no one from Perez to Lawson to Tsunoda can do the same.
Yeah, and what you were saying is that we're now down to just Red Bull and Racing Bulls for drivers next year. Obviously, Max is the only one that has a contract. So of those 4 seats, there's 3 that are available, and we don't know what's going to happen there. And we're hearing rumors about Tsunoda and other series.
Yes, I think Tsunoda's checking out Indy. And I see that as a potential for him. Other than that, I can't see him going, anywhere else. I mean, you've got to keep that Honda connection. He could do WEC, I suppose. But
I don't know about Formula E. I don't know about that. I don't know the seats available in that.
But I again don't see it for him. He's got so many. You forget how much experience he's got. And look, we've already put our weight on the scale that says that the Red Bull is a tough job. Is this particular car at the end of this reign of rules is not a good car. So I honestly I would almost keep everybody as is because I think Tsunoda has been close enough. He's been closer than the others although he's had more time. If I were picking, I would. There's no rush on Lindblad. I would. I would leave it as it is because Tsunoda can, with a new car, with his experience, help Max.
Yeah. Lindblad, I guess, is probably the wild card there, but he's young. And like you said, there's no rush. Here's a couple stats for you for Max. First failure to reach Q3 all season. I don't think that surprises you. Going into this session, he had the most poles of the year at 7. So I need to check Lando's. Andy P might know. He's listening. He might help let us know. But I just thought that was interesting that he had the most poles.
One thing we haven't
Jos
mentioned.
Verstappen leave the Red Bull garage after Q1 today. I was going to maybe say stormed out, but I didn't see that. I just saw a still.
He didn't storm out, but he got a good trot on, put it that way. and his dad went before him. The other thing we haven't mentioned, and I think it probably, when we look back, in the heat of the moment, we haven't really had time to mention it, but I think Red Bull's and everybody else's situations were also enhanced by the resurfacing. And that might be another reason that it hasn't got the grip that it had. an older surface might be a bit more abrasive. And so maybe that too played in as a factor.
Yeah. Um, we were talking about where Sonoda might end up in other series, but speaking of other series, Colton Herta tests his F2 car, right?
Yep.
Monza, was it?
Yes, I think it was.
Yeah. So that will be really fun to watch. I just got
By the way, here's another story for you. Talking of, I always try to remember the guys on the periphery and what happened to. Has anybody mentioned the word Jack Doohan in the last 3 months?
It's so funny. I was thinking about that exact thing yesterday. I was thinking,
Colin
man,
Pinto has now been taken on, so we can answer
Yep.
one question, which is he's out. And funnily enough, they were seen at the Super Formula race, both Jack and Mick. And why that's important is Mick, his father, 5-time MotoGP world champion, was a huge hero in Japan for Honda. I just think that he will have a lot of connection there. I think if you want to hit the reset button, Super Formula, most powerful car in the world, faster than Formula One around Suzuka, it's a good place for Jack to be. And I will be keeping an eye on what Jack does, on what Jack Crawford does. All these guys that are just on the periphery, and it could be now Sonoda or A&O, Lindblad, and to see where they'll be going.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chris Medland's about to join us. Let's get a quick break in before he does that. You're listening to Speed City F1, back after these messages. All right. I'm texting Chris.
I'll look at the YouTubers.
All right.
Okay. Lando pulls even on 7 poles this year. There you go.
There we go. Thanks, Andy P.
Yep. What's turn going to look like? What's turn 1 going to look like? Yeah. Who will maximize with the grid start? Yeah. It is a short run to turn 1. It's often been the place of many an incident.
There we go. I got to ask Chris, remind me, guys. I got to ask Chris, did you guys see the interview, the pre-sprint interview where he did just as well as Lando was walking and they were both just giggling and laughing? And I got to ask him, what were they talking about right before
Okay.
the cameras came on?
Okay. Mike Ball says hit Lee. I think he means hit like. But hit Lee anyway as you go on and hit like.
Yeah. Bill Rickers.
Hello.
Hey, Chris.
Ah, there he is.
How are we doing?
Very
Good,
well.
we're in a break.
Looking very smart today on television, on my television.
Thank you very much. I don't look it now because I just run to get my mic, so I'm sweating buckets, but no one can see. It's good.
What's Alex like? I don't know her, but she's coming across very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. First time I've worked with her. Seems decent.
All right, here we go. Oh, in 30. Okay.
Loads of time.
Loads of time. So what's the weather tomorrow, big man?
Cooler, overcast, but probably dry.
Okay. They'll be cleaning those. Do you think they'll be cleaning those pools out with at Center S's tonight with a
gone by now.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to the final segment of today's post-qualifying show. Jon Massengale, Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland has just joined us live from Interlagos. Chris, we've been talking about what an exciting Saturday it's been. Championship battles up and down. Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda don't know what they're driving. What's your favorite story of the weekend so far?
Oh, I can't tell, to be honest. Kimi Antonelli's a great one, isn't it? With the performances that we've seen. That's been very, very impressive from him. But every now and then, it's just looked like something crazy is going to happen. And we've had a lot, but I don't think it's a sexy story, but I'm pretty impressed with Lando Norris right now. He's just not put a foot wrong. And then when he looked like he was almost reverting to type of making a bit of an error in Q3, putting himself on the back foot and not being able to recover from it, he then pulls out what was actually a very impressive final lap to get pole. So amid all the chaos, him delivering has been impressive too. But I do want to give a shout out, actually. I've just come down to Sauber, and I'm trying to see if Jonathan Wheatley's around. I can't spot him at the moment. But the job they did rebuilding Gabriel Bortoletto's car, I know he didn't actually get out in Q1, but they were so close in record time having that car ready. I think that was a brilliant effort from the team, who deserve a lot of credit, A, for that, and B, for building such a safe car that protected them in that crash.
Yeah, brilliant. He's probably not going to want to talk to you, Chris. You've already talked to him like 5 times this weekend.
Yeah, I have.
He talked to him while they were rebuilding it.
Yeah, and he made a joke at that point before we did that interview that we were looking to break the record from Barcelona, which was 5 times in a weekend across radio and TV. So you might be right. He might dodge me now, but I thought that was a really good effort from that team.
Have you impressed him with your technology too?
No, never. Although I've just spotted him. I've found him now, but I don't know if he'll talk to me. So if I suddenly interrupt, we'll see. But I do want to see if he'll just give a word, or maybe we can make a joke about how many times I've bothered him. Because it wasn't actually a bad day in terms of, that was Nico Hulkenberg's first Q3.
Wow.
So, of this season, which is,
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah, that surprised me too.
Yeah. Hey, Chris.
Apparently I can't talk to Jonathan Wheatley right now because his PR's not here. Because Vanessa's not here to look after him. But come on, Jonathan, you trust me, right?
I'm in safe hands. It feels like I'm in safe hands.
Fool. No, I joke. Let's just give some credit first to your team. What an effort to get so close to getting Gabby's car fixed for Q1.
And thanks for mentioning that. You know, they've had a hell of a day. To get Nico's car turned around in the red flag period was something itself. He had a problem with his car, actually. We had to take the gearbox off in between the sprints and qualifying, which meant actually we couldn't put both crews onto one car. And, you know, everything has to go smoothly to get a car built in that period of time. One little thing didn't, and that was a difference. So, but yeah, I have to say, I'm tremendously proud of what they've achieved.
We saw in the garage. I've now got the PR next to me. I'm getting in trouble. Get the finger wagged at me. We saw in the garage that the applause for the effort actually when it just didn't quite come together. What was it that didn't quite come together? So everyone understands how much you're having to do.
There's just one connection. It's as simple as that. And then something didn't turn that should have turned, and then the discovery of that, and then trying to fix it. Yeah, it was. Look, I don't want to detract. It was just one little thing. I think he could have got out into qualifying without that, but then, you know, this is racing for you. And good news is lots of laps to grid tomorrow. Get Zion. Weather conditions look like they're pretty straightforward tomorrow as well. And look, we get to go racing.
It'll be great to watch them go racing here in front of this crowd too. They'll love it. They were very receptive. But let's finish on a word for Nico Hulkenberg. You still got a car into Q3 today after all of that. And it was the first time Nico's made Q3 all season.
Yeah, I think I'm still find that statistic hard to understand, to be honest. Went just a very, very good performance today all the way through. You know, he got through each period of qualifying, had us holding our breath for 1 minute, maybe helped by the fact that it looked like Max had some kind of an issue. I'm not really sure what happened there. And then look how close it was, the top 10. So, yeah, what could have been. But no, look, we're starting from P10. Nico's in a great form. Just looking forward to the race.
Well, we all are too, and we're glad that you'll have 2 drivers in it. Also a word for a brilliantly safe built car that protected Gabriel today. Hopefully a smoother day for you guys tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Chris.
I don't think I got into any more trouble after that.
Excellent stuff.
Hey, Chris, I want to ask you about exactly what he just said about Max, about what happened, right? We don't know what happened. Did you get a chance to talk to Stella? What's going on?
Well, no, it would be Laurent Mekies I want to speak to down at Red Bull. Yeah. There's so many people I know, aren't there? But yeah, I wanted to try and talk to him, and he was not up for speaking, actually, even to us on TV. He went into the debrief quickly and trying to understand what went wrong. I've had a steer from those within the team that the problem they've got here is the flaw on the car. And it's a flaw that was new in Mexico. Yes. Now, when did Red Bull start struggling again? Mexico. So apparently that flaw is a bit heavier than the old one, but the team are convinced it is going to deliver better performance when they set it up correctly. And they're just chasing that setup. They've not got it yet. So you saw Yuki Tsunoda was the slowest of anyone who ran in Q1 because obviously Gabriel didn't get out. And then Max couldn't even get through himself. And the fact that both were out shows it's a car problem, overall car pace problem. And I think what we may well see tomorrow, I've not had this confirmed, but I can absolutely see it coming, is a pit lane start for Max. Complete new setup, maybe go back to the old floor because A, he prefers it, and B, you want to kind of benchmark the old floor versus the new floor here at this track. And you could take a new power unit, which they weren't going to do. This was not part of the plan. They were trying to get to the end of the season without a power unit penalty, but they thought it might be risky. Well, now you've not really got anything to lose from 16th after such an uncompetitive showing. You might as well just do it.
Good point. Yeah, throw the kitchen sink at it. Yeah, why not?
I mean, at this point, you got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah, and dare I say it, they've not had anything to lose for a long time, but he's been getting closer and closer in that championship fight that you've thought, actually, it might be on here. Now, though, suddenly into a position where he's likely to lose 25 points to Lando Norris, and that's going to put him basically out of the running, isn't it? He's going to be over 60 back. If he finishes where he starts, Lando finishes where he starts, I think the gap's 64, which is pretty much what the gap we saw last time leaving here in Max's favour that then saw him wrap it up in Vegas. So this was actually a fear coming here, was that it could swing either way, but it could swing against Max and take him out of the running. And right now it's going to. So they've got to change something.
One of our listeners came up with a good one. Wow, Red Bull have upgraded themselves out of the window.
That's true.
Brilliantly put. Yeah, that is spot on right now. And to give them their dues, it sounds terrible, doesn't it? It's a slightly heavier floor and it's not working right now. But every upgrade they brought to that car prior to that from the middle of the season had worked and worked well and put them in a position to be back in this title fight. So I totally understand why they went for it. But the fact that it's not been working, I was looking in the Red Bull hospitality unit a little bit ago, and you could see Helmut Marko sat with Jos Verstappen and Raymond Vermeulen, who is Max's manager. And they weren't saying a word at that point, but they had faces like thunder.
Faces like thunder. Hey, Chris, speaking of the championship, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris going at it, right? Lando now in a good position. He's up by 9 and he's got the pole for tomorrow. But we were talking about what happened to Piastri in the sprint race and where Lando went over the curbs and stirred up the water. And do you think that it was the fact that Lando was just the first one to do it, or at least I proposed a crazy Machiavellian theory that he did it on purpose, but everybody says I'm crazy. But do you think it was just that he was the first one? Do you think that was what caused it all?
John, I'm definitely going to say you're crazy. That's a risk you do not take. And that would be, that could easily have put Lando in the wall if he took too much curb. In many ways, you are trying to stay off them. I think Lando hit it at a slightly different angle, so he didn't have the car unsettled so much. But because he was first, and it did flick up a bit, some went onto the track, and Kimi Antonelli flagged that. But some would have just come out of the curbing onto the edge of the curbing. And we saw shots of it. So I don't know how many people listening now will have seen any footage from earlier. But we saw shots of the curbs where you could see the water pooled in the curb. But it's on the very outside of the curb, like the furthest point from the track. That's where the curb is deepest, because the way the curbs are designed, they're the shallowest next to the track. And the wider you go, the more punishing they become. Well, the more punishing they become, the deeper the gullies that they have, the more water that gets stored in there. I think what happened with Lando is he got a little bit wide, but not too bad. And to him, it would have felt fine. He was just using curb that seemed like it had grip, and he's just using a bit more of the track. But by getting that bit close to that water, that pulled some of it more onto the curb. For everyone else who'd started using that curb and finding it fine, then that's a bit more slippery. And the fact that 3 drivers went round at the same time, I think is a combination of that, because then each driver that crashed pulled more water out. And also that with every lap, they'll have started pushing the limits a little bit more. You could see with Oscar as well, he nearly caught it. I think he felt he had it under control. Once it went, that he was getting it back and, okay, it was a big slide and going to lose a lot of time. But it took so long to go that he didn't counter. He kept counter steering and looked like he was holding it. So I do think it still caught him out that the grip didn't come back to him at that point. And then he was a passenger once it went fully sideways.
Chris, did you get to catch up with Oscar Piastri with F1 TV microphone?
Not myself, no. He went into the TV pen, but unsurprisingly, when a driver has a bad day, they don't tend to come in and chat to us on air. So they do the mandatory stuff and they run and hide. But I did see his face, actually. We were doing some of the hits in the red flag and filling some time then, myself with Alice Powell. And while we were doing that, I noticed that Oscar came, and when he was leaving, he actually looked pretty philosophical about everything. He's very good at dealing with disappointment and adversity. He doesn't get too high when things go well. He doesn't get too low when things go badly. And, I think his form actually has been much better this weekend. But that was a costly error. His final run in Q3, I'd say, was costly. He did not hook that up at all. And the pace was in there. So I think he's going to be ruining missed opportunities here, but also knowing he's there or thereabouts.
Okay, what about George Russell? He's complained all day today, and Antonelli looks so good. What's going on there?
Yeah, good question, to be honest. Jacques Villeneuve, I heard say George Russell whines a lot when things aren't going well, and that he was doing that today. But we've seen George win round here. We know he can be good. We know he can be quick. I just don't think he's happy with his setup compared to what Antonelli's got. And what happens is when you have a sprint weekend, in FP1, you get the chance to hit the ground running and keep that advantage because it gets locked in quickly. You don't have 2 more practice sessions for everyone to learn from each other, to try different things, and for everything to shake out to where it should be. You get one go at it, and then you've got to run that. And I think Antonelli was really happy with his car after the sprint as well and didn't make many changes. Now, what would have happened on the other side of the garage is George being less happy with the car, and he shouldn't have been. He wasn't far off. He was still close to Antonelli during sprint qualifying and the sprint. But then he'll have been making changes, looking to get his performance up to Antonelli's level. And in doing that, he's not guaranteed to find it. Otherwise, they'd have started there. So you're making changes that you don't know if they'll work or not. And I don't think those changes worked for him when he went into qualifying itself. And he was then fighting the car. Then it was a Hail Mary at the end. They went on the medium tyre for his final run. It couldn't quite get him up onto the second row, could it? In the end, he split the 2 Racing Bulls, but no higher than that. And I think that was just because it was a gamble, which shows that it's a little bit lost with his setup. And they're locked in now. They're ones that can't change it. Yeah, there's no way that they can go overnight. We'll change the setup and take a pit lane start. You don't do that from starting in the top 6.
Hey, Chris, I've got a question for you that only you can answer, because right before qualifying, you did about a 10-second interview with Lando Norris, and you guys were both fighting back smiles and laughter. I need to know what y'all were talking about.
I'm trying to remember what that was again. So sorry, someone's just tapped me on the shoulder. I've had to wave them off with my microphone.
You were talking to Lando, and Lando said something. The only clue that I had was why you guys were so giggly was that Lando said something about the track is part of the weather or something like that, and y'all were just giggling away. Maybe.
Oh yeah, that was the award-winning interview that I think I'm kind of waiting for. An Oscar or whatever the version of it is going to be. But that was so hard hitting, where I asked him how it looked for today, if getting a good start was going to be crucial. And he was just about to walk down onto the grid, so I couldn't follow him any further. And he basically said that he hopes to make a good start, but the track looks a bit wet, so we'll see. And that was that. So the entire interview, I think, was 15 seconds long. And as everyone who listens to our show right now knows, I can talk a lot. So most of that 15 seconds was me asking the question.
Wow.
Well, it was.
Let's talk to someone else who's had a good day, because I've got Alan Permain, who I've been bothering multiple times today already. But Alan, very briefly, how happy are you with both cars in the top 7?
Super happy, of course. Could not be happier. Really, a great weekend. Good. It wasn't okay. The sprint wasn't fantastic, but we've had a difficult couple of races, Mexico and Austin. We had a long think about how we were approaching races, how we were approaching setup and stuff like that, and changed a few things, and it's really worked out this weekend.
It certainly has. Both Racing Bulls cars in the top 7. We're nearly out of time on the show, so thank you for that. I'll bother you in the morning.
That's great, Chris. He sure seems like that he has stepped right into that role, hadn't he?
Yeah, he's someone who's really impressed me. Talking at lunchtime with some guys from Pirelli who asked who's good to interview, actually, for radio and TV. And I said how impressive he's been with taking to the whole role. One, in doing a good job for Racing Bulls, but 2, then taking on the additional responsibilities that come with being a team boss. Not everyone wants to do it. As we've seen, like today, Laura Meckies doesn't want to talk because they've had a bad day. Fred Vasseur doesn't always want to talk on a bad day. Toto Wolff the same. But Alan Permain really fronts up.
All right, Chris, we're almost out of time, but you mentioned the potential weather tomorrow, but you did it during the break. Tell everybody what it's looking like out there.
So right now it's gorgeous sunshine. There's a few people around. It's lovely. It's the warmest it's been all weekend. But tomorrow looks like being overcast and much cooler. Probably the coldest day of the weekend so far. I think that will suit Mercedes because they looked good in the greasy conditions earlier when it was low track temperatures and low overall temperatures. So yeah, another change in conditions. So it could mix things up.
Well, we are looking forward to all of that. We're looking forward to see what will happen in the championship race with Lando Norris going into tomorrow's race with a 9-point lead over his teammate Oscar Piastri. We don't know what's going to happen with Max Verstappen starting down in 16th. So, but tomorrow it all gets started. We got some good times for tomorrow. We start the pre-race at tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. And followed by the race and the post-race. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.